I do want to start though with because you're from Nashville,
Yeah.
and I know Nashville quite well. Strangely, got a Nashville tattoo, which is don't ask.
Oh.
Um, the I go through everybody's Twitter or old social media to try and find something quite interesting. It took me a couple of years, but I found a tweet you made about the Tennessee State Lottery logos. That you like, yeah. Have they updated that yet? 3 years on?
Oh man, that's a funny one to pull up. Yeah. Yeah, it was. I don't remember if I put a picture
You
with
did.
it or not. But so Nashville has a hockey team called the Nashville Predators, and it's locally broadcasted. So obviously, like with local broadcasts for advertisement, it's the same commercials every game, and there's 82 games a year. So it's the same 15 commercials 3 or 4 times over a 3 to 4 hour span, as many times as I'm watching that, which is a lot. And I just remember I always just kind of tune it out. And then one day I looked up and I saw the lottery commercial. I was like, who let it fly to put these things that look exactly like a butt plug on this commercial? I mean, like, couldn't be anything else. Genuinely, I just looked, I was like, that's insane. I can't believe that got past whatever QC there is for commercial content, but it was killing me. And then every time for the rest of the season, I would look up when that commercial came on. I was like, that's so crazy. So
Yeah, that's Tennessee for you. I remember the first time I was in Knoxville. I was waiting to hang out with some mates that night, and same thing. The TV adverts came on, and the advert from memory it was along the lines of it was like farmer wants a wife. And I was just like, and I'm in my hotel room
what
going,
was it?
"Oh
Farmers
my
Only, the
God,"
dating app?
something like that. Yeah,
Oh,
and
dude.
this was
Yeah.
like,
Farmers Only. Wow.
you I was like, and this was maybe 10 years ago, and I was in Knoxville, and I was thinking, yeah, I'm in a different world now. Yeah, very different.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I do love Nashville. I go there quite often. I got some friends there. I I want to talk a little bit about that because you do your own shows there as well. You go and
Mhm.
promote your own shows. You had one a couple of weeks ago on the I always get the dates wrong, but it was the 15th of June,
Yep.
which you did at East Side Bowl. I know you've got one coming up with Future Static in a few weeks as well. Nashville, though, to the outside, to people who don't go or only go to the tourist spots, it comes across as a real, country and western town. We both know it's not because there's so many other great musicians and writers and that who live there. So how would you describe Nashville as being this hotbed of metal and hardcore?
I would say that metalcore specifically, and hardcore a little bit more now, requires some pretty creative thinking and impressive musicianship most of the time if you're going to do it well. Um, and I think that what's cool about Nashville is that musically speaking, all of the best musicians are here. No matter what genre, no matter what instrument, they're all here. Like the original bassist of this band now tours full time with a Grammy award winning blues artist and plays the session work for, you know, people that are on like the Beyonce record and things like that. Like there's just not it's just not like anywhere else aside from maybe parts of New York, parts of California, whatever. But um so with that, you just naturally are going to have some of the best musicians because you are a product of your surroundings, whether you like it or not. And I think that we got overlooked for a very long time when there wasn't a lot of bands in the genre. There wasn't a lot of bands touring from the genre. And so people would just skip Nashville on their tour dates and go to Atlanta, which still happens a lot, but not near as much. And gradually started to get more tours in, started to have a little bit of a turnover in terms of like, the old people that were getting tired of the show stopped coming. There was a gap where they weren't there, and now we've got this wave of youngsters, like 16 to 24, going to every show, every venue, can't get enough of it. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that hardcore metalcore in and of itself is not a subculture. It is a counterculture. It is there to stand against something, not just separately. And I think in a place like Nashville, you have that expectation of everything is cowboy boots and bachelorettes and all this stuff. And so when you find that expression that is so aggressive and so countercultural, if you're not meant to be there, quickly. And if you are, you can't get away. And I think that that's something that Nashville brings out. And I mean, there's just also so many good bands from here that people don't know about. Like first and foremost, there's a band from here called Chamber that I think is the most underrated metalcore band of our time. They're unbelievable. But there's, tons of bands that you would consider local bands because they play here frequently that are starting to get out. There's one called Lethal Method, Dogpile, Officer Down, Circuit, like the list goes on. And every one of those bands, if I put them next to a band that we're touring with, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference of who's playing out of state and who isn't. And so it's a really cool place to kind of be one of the front runners because we've been touring for so long representing the city to the point now where like we're able to take that exact light and shine it back on the community, which is what that June 15th show was. Because June 15th is 615, which is the area code for Nashville. And so we were like, well, let's do a free show and have all local bands, and ended up with 700 people, and it was unreal. So
nice. I mean, I think it was June last year, though, you were in Australia, and you couldn't.
July, August, but yes, very close.
July, August, yeah, it was pretty close. And you were straight for the path on that tour. Now you're coming back with Wage War and Heavensgate. What are some of your memories of the tour last year and the reception that you got?
The reception was really genuinely wonderful because anytime that we go somewhere that we haven't played, even in the States where we are popular, sometimes we'll have bad sets and I have to be like, yeah, guys, you got to remember, we haven't been to this place, whatever. And so we haven't built the same foundational fan base that we've been doing for like the last decade and all these other places. So going to a different country after being a band for 10 years, our expectations were we're going to win a lot of fans over because we are good at what we do, but I'm not anticipating blowout reactions or what have you. And then night one in Brisbane was the first show we'd ever played out of the country. And it was like a hometown show. It was unreal. And, Sydney was very similar. Melbourne was very similar. Adelaide was crazy. Perth was crazy. Newcastle was Newcastle. But it was just like show after show after show, we'd have these people that are just reacting to us as if they've seen us 1,000 times, like they know what's coming next. And it was just so cool. I guess it was very validating to be like, oh, this works everywhere. What we're doing catches on. It's cool. So that was probably the most refreshing and relieving thing to like leave this culture where we've got all these seeds we've been watering for so long to go to this brand new place and be not just welcome, but adored in some senses was crazy, genuinely crazy.
Two questions on that then. One, because I'm in Adelaide, do you still have the I Hate Nashville t-shirts? Or Nashville Hates You t-shirts?
Yes, I personally have that trademarked. Like that's our shit. So we
Will
do
you be
those.
bringing?
I don't think we're gonna have shirts, but we're gonna have hats. So
cool. And the second thing, you were talking about culturally. I genuinely feel that for the last 10 years in the music scene, metalcore has been the premium one in the broad stroke of the genre of rock and metal. But I feel hardcore is coming up real fast, especially here in Australia. Like now that you began to travel to different parts of the world, is that the same sort of feeling you're getting?
So we ironically are still yet to make it anywhere else aside from Australia off of our own continent. So I can't speak to Europe, UK, but just from experiences I have with friends, bands that are from those areas. I mean, like we all know Speed. Band's incredible, and they're within a couple of years world renowned. And I think a lot of that has to do with the efforts from all of the bands that are touring all the time and so on, but the efforts and the breakthrough and accessibility specifically of Turnstile and Knocked Loose. Which is funny because the more that they progress their discography, the further they get from each other, but they come from such a very similar place. They're both hardcore bands at heart, right? Knocked Loose is, I say, the heaviest band that is touring the world currently, aside from maybe Meshuggah. And Turnstile has somehow made it to where they've created punk hardcore music that I literally can hear in a grocery store. So it's such polar opposite things, but they work in such similar ways. And in that, they're opening so many doors to so many different things to where, Turnstile is bringing bands like Blood Orange on tour and Citizen and things like that, which is adjacent, but not the same. And then you have the other side of that where Knocked Loose is bringing Denzel Curry on tour, which is he's a rapper. And it's starting to be this thing where all of these genres that have alternative, niche, aggressive elements are able to turn to these kind of beacons of like, cool, like, we've had the Stained, we've had Slipknot, we've had Foo Fighters, we've had all these bands that have aggressive elements at this level. And now we're getting to a point where we're finally getting to a point where like the logo bands are not the same logos on the festivals every time. And a lot of it is to do with the efforts of those bands breaking through, continuing to work so hard, continuing to take the risk that they're taking. And then also not just bringing bands out, but like championing the bands that they're bringing out. When Knocked Loose brought Speed on tour here, they every single day, every band account, personal accounts was, we're in this city, Speed plays at this time. Not like doors this time, like you need to be here by this time to see Speed. And Turnstile, I've seen do very similar things where they'll bring artists out and make sure that they're like, it's not just like a clap your hands for this band. They're like, hey, were you paying attention? Like, look at what's happening in front of you. And I think that in and of itself just allows people to access all these new artists in ways that isn't just the internet, because these gateway bands are bringing out bands that are not just there to sell tickets. They're there to like lend a new experience and make people want to find more. So,
yeah, I've got about 90 seconds. So the last question I'll ask you, Adam, is what can fans expect from your show this time around in Australia?
We are aware that we are not a like band that has ballads, and we are aware that we're the more aggressive of the lineup, and we are leaning into it. It is really that's it. We don't have any production. We're not doing anything fancy, but we have cultivated a set that is deliberately unrelenting, and we don't really care if you like it or not. That's kind of just what we wanted to do, and that's the attitude that we're bringing to it.
Right. We're playing bigger venues as well this time, so that'll be fantastic. And you've got a great lineup.
Some pretty big ones on the last tour. So when I keep hearing that these are even bigger upgrades, I'm like, all right, we'll see. That's awesome.
Awesome. Well, I'll see you in Adelaide, and I will want one of them hats because, as I said, I do have Tennessee.
Oh, hey.
Yeah.
We got, look at that.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Although everybody here thinks that's fucking Dragon Ball. Fucking annoys me. Anyway.